What is up guys, Stark here. I am back for another character spotlight, and in today's video I am talking about the Lancer version of Artoria Pendragon. So she is going to be a Lancer, and she was part of the Camelot batches that came out a long time ago. But I did skip a few of these servants, and now I'm going back and I'm going to try and catch up on all the servants I missed for these character spotlights, and I'm going to be starting with Artoria Pendragon. So at level 90, her stats will end up being 15,606 HP and 10,995 attack. This will rank her 2nd overall in HP and 31st overall in attack. So as you guys can see, she has fantastic stats, and obviously, number 2 ranked overall in HP, falling only behind Joan, the ruler one, and the HP stat. So she's got some really awesome stats. Her attack stat is a little bit lower, but she makes up for it with a really high HP, and she's going to be a pretty hard servant to take down with that much HP. Her star weight is 89, and her star gain is 12.2%, and for her Noble Phantasm generation, she's going to have 1.1 on her attacks and 4% on her defense. So she's going to have pretty good star generation, pretty good Noble Phantasm generation, really good stats, good set of skills, which we'll talk about in a couple seconds. But overall, I think she holds her own as a servant and as a Lancer, and she's definitely not a bad servant to get. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about her skills. First up is going to be the Manna Burst A. This will increase her own Buster Card effectiveness for 1 turn, sitting at a 50% increase to Buster Card effectiveness for 1 turn at level 10 on a 5-turn charge time, which is absolutely fantastic. A 50% increase is one of the best in the game, and that's going to definitely increase your damage, your overall damage significantly. And that'll definitely help since her Noble Phantasm is Buster as well. But we'll talk about her Noble Phantasm in a little bit. For now though, we're going to talk about her second skill, which will be the Charisma B, which will increase all of her allies' attacks for 3 turns. This will be an 18% increase at level 10 on a 5-turn charge time. So again, this is your standard Charisma skill, but it's going to be very good. So you have 2 attack boosts in her kit. And then her third and final skill is the Protection of the World's End EX. And this will charge her own Noble Phantasm gauge as well as removing all of her debuffs. So at max level, you're going to have a 50% increase to your gauge on a 6-turn charge time. So this is really good as well, being able to get half of your gauge filled just like that. And you also do remove any of those pesky debuffs that are on you. So this does look very similar to the original Artoria Pendragon skill set. She does have the same Charisma skill, and she also does have the same Manna Burst. But she also does have a little bit of a different set of skills, being able to increase her own Noble Phantasm gauge, as well as remove debuffs, as opposed to just granting critical stars. Now I know Saber does get a upgrade to her skill, which will also increase her own Noble Phantasm gauge. So she does end up being pretty much the same character as Saber. All in all though, it is still a very good set of skills, even if it is basically the same thing as the original. Moving on to her passives though, she does have 2, the first one being the Magic Resistance B, which will increase her debuff resistance by 17.5%, and the second one is going to be Writing A, which will increase her quick card effectiveness by 10%. As for her Ascension Materials, for her first Ascension, she's going to need 5 Lancer pieces and 100,000 Quantum pieces. For her second Ascension, she's going to need 12 Lancer pieces, 18 Dragon Fangs, and 300,000 Quantum pieces. For her third Ascension, she's going to need 5 Lancer Monuments, 20 Great Knight Medals, 3 Warhorses Young Horns, and 1 million Quanta pieces. And for her final Ascension, she's going to need 12 Lancer Monuments, 6 Warhorses Young Horns, 5 Reverse Dragon Scales, and 3 million Quanta pieces. And then for her skill enhancements, she's going to need 17 Gems of the Saber, Magic Gems of the Saber, and Secret Gems of the Saber, 30 Great Knight Medals, 36 Dragon Fangs, 26 Meteor Horseshoes, 10 Heart of the Foreign Gods, 1 Crystallized Lore, and 54,400,000 Quantum pieces. So moving on now and taking a look at her command card deck and her Noble Phantasm, she is going to have 2 Quick, 1 Arts, and 2 Buster, with the hit counts being 3 on the Quick, 2 on the Arts, and 1 on the Buster, with 2 on her extra attack. So this is a little unfortunate because she does have really high Noble Phantasm generation. She doesn't really have a whole lot of hits to make good use of that, which really sucks. So now for her Noble Phantasm, I'm going to go ahead and show you the clip of her Noble Phantasm real fast, and then we'll come back and talk about it in just a second. Alright, so I'm back, and as you guys can see there, her Noble Phantasm is pretty cool. And what it is going to do is deal damage to all enemies, and this will also ignore invincibility and evasion for 1 turn. And on the overcharge, this will also charge her own Noble Phantasm gauge. So again, this is very similar to the original Saber's Noble Phantasm being able to deal damage to all enemies as well as charging her own gauge. But this one has the addition of being able to ignore invincibility, which is going to be, you know, a lot better. Unfortunately, though, it is going to do a little bit less damage overall compared to Artoria, Pendragon, Saber. But compared to other Lancers, she's going to end up being around near the top of the list for AoE Lancers. So all in all, she does some pretty good damage, and if you do have this at max level, you could actually end up getting 50% of your gauge back, and then using her skill to get the other 50%, and being able to fire off Noble Phantasms on back-to-back turns, which is going to be pretty cool, and it is really powerful as well. So you can do some pretty good wave clearing with that. Of course, though, you do need it at max overcharge in order to get that done. So as she does primarily focus as a buster and damage dealer, there are quite a few servants you can combo her with, you know, namely being Merlin, who now comes to mind in pretty much every video now that he's actually on Global. He'll be a fantastic option for Artoria. He has the buster increase, he has an attack increase, he also has invincibility, which is going to be very helpful for keeping her alive. As a Lancer, she doesn't possess any of the Lancer evasion skills or defensive skills or healing. She has no defense. The only defense to her name is going to be her ridiculously high HP, and outside of that, she has nothing. So being able to get some defense on top of that is going to be very helpful. And the same thing can be said for Nightingale, being able to increase her buster card effectiveness as well as providing some heals for her in order to keep her alive. That'll be really good. And for free-to-play servants, you could go ahead and use William Shakespeare, who will also be a buster card effectiveness increase user. And you can also go ahead and use MASH as a good support character for Artoria as well. Now, she's not going to be able to increase the buster card effectiveness of Artoria, but she will provide a lot of defensive support in order to help keep her alive longer. And she can also buff her attack as well with her Noble Phantasm. So overall, she can be a very helpful servant for those of you trying to keep Artoria Pendragon alive. If she's like your only damage dealer and you really need to protect her, then MASH is definitely going to be a good option. As for some craft essences that you could use on her, again, this is going to be a really buster heavy set. But first up is going to be her maximum bond craft essence, which is going to be the King's Horse. And while equipped, this will increase the Noble Phantasm strength and the attack of all of your allies by 10% on the field. You could also go ahead and use the Black Grail to just go ahead and boost up the maximum damage her Noble Phantasm does by 60%. You know, it's going to be pretty powerful as it is, and just throw this on, it's going to be even stronger. Losing the 500 every turn isn't going to be a big deal because she has a really high HP pool, so that's not going to leave much of a dent. You could also go ahead and throw on the Golden Sumo Boulder Tournament for the increase to attack by 10%, as well as starting the battle with 30% of your gauge filled. And finally, you can go ahead and use the Limited Zero Over for the 25% increase to your buster card effectiveness. As for her overall ranking, she's going to get 5 stars in stats. You know, she's top 2 in HP, so that alone is pretty much going to carry her right to a 5-star. For her skills, she's going to get 4 stars here. You know, the fact that it is almost identical to the original Saber really just didn't sit well with me. I know she's the same character, essentially, but it would have been nice to see her have a little bit of a variation of her skills. Like, if you look at the 4-star version of Artoria, Pendragon, Lancer, she has a similar skill set, but it's slightly different at the same time. So, you know, I definitely feel like that was a better route to go than just basically copying the skill set. Now, I know I really shouldn't take that into factor, but overall, though, you still do get a lot of attack buffs and things like that. But I try not to be too harsh on it because it's still a really good set of skills, and you can still do some pretty powerful damage with it. But overall, I felt like that was a fair ranking for it. For her Noble Phantasm, she's only going to get 4 stars as well. She does do quite a bit of damage as an AoE Lancer, but she does fall behind Karna and the 4-star version of this character, Alter Lancer Artoria. And I feel like that is really strange that she falls behind the counterpart of her own character. So, you know, she does lose a few points there because if you're going for Noble Phantasm damage, then, you know, you're probably going to opt for Alter Lancer Artoria instead, because even her Buster increase skill is actually better than the 5-star version, being a 55% increase as opposed to a 50% increase. And she does have the Charisma boost as well with the 12% in attack. So overall, it's just the fact that the 4-star can do more damage really sets her a few points back as far as overall ranking for Lancers go. It still does some really good damage though, and it does also ignore invincibility, so if you do need something that gets by that, it's going to be the best option, because Karna can't get around it, and Alter Lancer Artoria can't get around it either, so that will definitely be your best option there. For her survivability, she's going to get 4 stars as well. I know it seems kind of weird since she's ranked number 2 in HP, but as I said before, she has no defense, no evasion, no heals, no invincibility. She has no way of keeping herself alive outside of her high HP pool, so if she gets matched up with like a Berserker or something, or a Saber, she could actually fall down really fast. So that's why she gets 4 stars in survivability. Her versatility is also going to get 4 stars. You know, she is a pretty powerful character, but she doesn't have too many support buffs. You know, she does have the Charisma skill, but that's pretty much it. And as I said before, her noble Phantasm is outshined by the 4-star version and Karna, so sometimes you'd rather opt to putting them in the teams instead, and that will give her overall ranking a 4.2 out of 5. She's not a bad servant. She's actually probably one of the better Lancers as far as damage goes, but she basically is just a carbon copy of the Saber version of this character, and to me that really doesn't sit too well with me. I definitely like having unique characters, and she doesn't really feel that unique to me. She just feels, again, like a copy of the original Saber, which she is. I mean, fair play to that. She actually, you know, she is a copy of the original Saber because she's Saber, but still, I just didn't like it, so yeah. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. If you did like the video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord. And since I am recording this on New Year's Eve, I do want to wish everyone a Happy New Year's. Be safe, and I will see you guys, hopefully see you guys back for 2019 for a lot more content and hopefully better content for you guys to enjoy. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.